what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Voting is 5-2. 5-2 is the best we can do. 5-2 is the best we can do. 5-2 is the best we can do, no matter who is in charge. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Manager must do as directed. The manager must accept the direction. The manager must accept the direction. The manager must accept the direction. Hard with a leadership change. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? The manager again replaced. Another manager, more of the same. Another manager, more of the same. Another manager, more of the same. Happens over and over again. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Maybe it's time for a change. Let's consider a mayoral government. Let's consider a mayoral government. Let's consider a mayoral government to give us a chance to improve. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? The mayor elected to office. A mayor elected by the people. A mayor elected by the people. A mayor elected by the people. The town has a chance to succeed. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? The town has a leadership choice. Read the 5 questions and make a decision. Read the 5 questions and make a decision. Now read the 5 questions and make a decision. Then vote on November 4th.
Hello everybody, this is Brian O'Haron on October 23rd, 2008, on the eve of a budget referendum, Town of Winchester budget referendum on Saturday the 25th, and a few weeks away from the national election on November 4th, where we will have 5 local questions, number 3 through number 7, on the state ballot. The agenda for this evening will be comments from me after I talk a bit about the budget and the state date. Some frequently asked questions. Everybody around town's been asking me a lot of questions lately about the mayoral form of government, and tonight I'm going to try to answer some of those questions for all on the television program, because I don't get to see everybody during the week. I'm going to present the ballot, and I'll show you what the ballot looks like, and you can pick one of those up, of course, at the town hall, and it will be published in the newspaper if it hasn't been already. And then I'm going to go through the 5 questions if enough time, and I'll tell you what's going to be on next week. The budget town referendum Saturday, October 25th, 2008, will be at the Pearson School from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Let's see if we can get a good turnout this time so we can really see what the town really thinks about these budgets. And if it passes, that's one thing. If it doesn't, maybe we'll have some more information to prepare a better budget the next time. The proposed tax increase will be 0.91 mils, or 3.87%. Yeah, I don't know how to, well, I don't know what I did there. Anyway, 0.91 mils, or 3.87%. The last time it was 2.88%. That's where that comes from. The national election will be on November 4th, 2008, at the Pearson School from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I want to emphasize that this will be a state ballot for the national election. There will be some town questions on it, 5 from number 3 through number 7. But only electors of the town of Winchester are eligible to vote at this election. If you are an elector in another city or state, then you can't vote in Winsted for this election. If you have any questions, just call the town clerk at the town hall or go down there and ask them for more information on that. Now I want to start out with a little bit of theory this evening, and this is going to be mostly about the mayoral form of government this evening, because next week I'm going to have a special guest that occupies the whole program, and I won't have time to get a word in edgewise. You'll be very happy with next week's program if you do tune in, 8 o'clock Thursday, Channel 13. Here's a dad and a mom, and junior, whether it be male or female, doesn't matter. We have to be very careful when we have children to make sure that we're both, mom and dad, sending the correct messages to the child. We don't want to have the dad send one message to one ear and the mother send just the opposite message to the other ear. What we try to do, at least what Joyce and I tried to do when we had our 3 children, was say, let's agree between ourselves how we want to rear this child and what we want the child's values to be. And then we will try to send the same message to each of the children. Now, this is especially true for large main issues. There will be some small things where color of shoes and things like that where it doesn't matter too much. But when you're talking about character and how to bring yourself up, you know, in life, not to steal and all those kind of things, then it's best to have the same message going down. Now, we got to be a little careful when we have a family, because sometimes other people get involved, like grandmothers on one side and grandfathers, or uncles and aunts, or cousins, or neighbors. And then on the other side, you have the other grandparents and cousins and uncles and aunts and neighbors, and then you got school teachers, and you got religious leaders, and you got YMCA people and Cub Scout and Girl Scout masters. So they're all getting information into this child. And what you have to be very careful of here is that all this information isn't conflicting information that confuses the child and causes a lot of problems. So I wanted to point that out because I'm sure you're all familiar with this example and you can relate to that. So now what I want to say is, when we have a town manager, our town manager gets input from 7 selectmen, some speaking in this ear, some speaking in that ear. Sometimes they speak jointly, as you know from my earlier song 5 to 2. On the big issues, rarely is it the same information. It's usually just the opposite information that goes in one ear than the other. And that perplexes the town manager. So the town manager is managed by committee. This is a committee of 7 selectmen chosen by the electors. And usually they come from 2 extreme philosophies. You come from, here is the Republican and their philosophy, here are the Democrats and their philosophy. Some of it overlaps in the middle, but as you can see in the town of Winchester at least, not much overlaps. In other towns, perhaps more overlaps. Now, you also got input coming in from outside agencies, people who lost the last election, people who are in the Taxpayers Association, individuals all over the place. They're also trying to get information into the town manager's right and left ear. This I call micromanagement. Really, these people should be going through their representatives, the selectmen, that they elected at the last election. So the town manager can get pretty well confused in here, and in the end, he has to make a decision which way to go, and that's what I'm going to talk a bit about tonight. Now, also, these people here and some of these people here tend to go around the town manager and go down to employees of the town, one way or another. Now, we have protection against that in the charter, which doesn't ever seem to be enforced, but we want to keep that strong. So that's called micromanagement, when people don't go through the town manager and they start talking directly to his people, or even people lower in the organization than that, and putting one sort of pressure on them or not. Now, the way an elector works in the mayoral system is, there's the electors, they all elect the mayor. The selectmen are off to the side creating the policy, although he is on the board of selectmen as chairman, and he votes in case of a tie, and the finance board is worried about the finances, while the mayor, reporting to the electors, runs the town on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, and year-to-year basis. And the people in the town report to him. And these people cannot micromanage here. So they can certainly put ideas into his head. Now, these, of course, these are mixed. There's Republicans and Democrats here, and there's mixture here, although these people try to be as apolitical as possible. So this is a much cleaner way to run our organization. And with that, I now want to, we will have the picture of the Constitution of the United States being signed that I got from the library, Beardsley and Memorial Library, to use on the program today. That'll be shown quite a bit. And I will be now talking quite a bit about some comments to follow along the same line as the information that I just showed you. First thing I want to say is, wow. It's a good thing that we didn't approve that humongous bond package fostered by the last administration. That was great foresight on the part of the electors and the majority of the selectmen. We're in real pickle now in the world, in America, and in the state, and in our town. And to be burdened by that great bond issue now would not be at all helpful. We can't even pass a budget at 3 or 4%. So we didn't need that burden, and thank you everybody for electing these selectmen and having the foresight there. We didn't all know exactly what was coming, but we knew it was going to be a tough year, one way or the other. The following program is not meant to denigrate the existing mayor or to denigrate the town manager. The town managers that are fortunate enough to be in a less political and micromanagement, less demographic, with constant positive direction from election to election and backing, can and do succeed. Often people will say to you, this system works in Timbuktu. and I'll say, well, let's go look at the demographics of Timbuktu, which I did a lot of during the last year for the Charter Revision Commission, and you'll find the demographics are usually totally different than they are in our town. We have very difficult demographics. The present town manager is doing a fine job under very difficult circumstances because he's being supported by a majority of business-oriented selectmen. He and the selectmen are pulling in the same direction. Even some of the minority selectmen pull in the same direction a small percent of the time. If there is no radical change to the leadership in the next election, he will continue to produce positive results for the town. If there is a radical change in philosophy by the winners of the next election, if we do have another election for 7 selectmen, he will probably be much less effective if he manages to stay. The town of Winchester is very unlike many other towns of our size because of the demographics. In recent history, the demographics in recent history may be quite, and often are, most usually are, quite different. This town has a declining recent history and some very difficult demographics. We have the lake on one hand, which is fairly wealthy. We have the town of Winchester, which is reasonably well off. We have the town of Winsted, which is scraping to get by. We have an average budget every year of 3.93% that can't seem to satisfy our needs, and it seems to be very difficult for us to cut the budget below that. So we have those demographics. Other towns don't have the same demographics and don't have the same extremes in philosophies that we have between our Democrats and our Republicans. We must identify and resolve our own problems. This is our town. We have to solve the problems. It won't be done by the American government. It won't be done by the state government. It must be done by us. The responsibility continues to remain with us. Just because the town manager form works elsewhere, in towns our size, doesn't mean that it will ever work here. Elsewhere will most certainly have a different history and demographics. The mayoral form, because of its CEO and structure, may help us more than the town manager form of government. When I first entered business and received more and more responsibility at a very young age, I was told by many very astute mentors, Brian, never work for a committee when carrying out day-to-day, week-to-week, and year-to-year business. It is a recipe for failure the majority of the time. Management by committee is inefficient and usually slows progress down to a crawl, and in the end produces substandard results over a long period of time. Our town manager, CEO, is chosen by and works for a committee, 7 selectmen elected. The mayor, CEO, will be chosen by the electors and not work for a committee. This is a huge difference. I have been counseled again and again, and I now counsel you, that you cannot have a revolving door when it comes to leadership. The town cannot continue to change major leadership and town managers as often as we have in the recent past and expect to be successful. Another well-known lesson is the customer is always right. The mayor must run on a platform and perform as expected by those customers that voted for the position. Of course, the customers are also the shareholders in this case. Listening to the electors, those who elected you, is critical in the mayoral form of government, or the mayor will most likely be out at the next election. Although mayors do tend, at least around here in this area, first selectmen and mayors tend to last at least 5 years on average, which is better than we do with town managers. A town manager listening to a committee composed of 4 political parties, as was in the last term here, not this term, we only have 2 political parties this time, but of 4 political parties last time, of opposing philosophies often, and intertwined philosophies, that trade power every 2 years is counterproductive and probably impossible for short and long-term success. Hence our hiatus over the last 10 years or so. In business, whether commercial or municipal, it is very important to be able to employ dedicated experts of one discipline or another, no matter how old. It could be young, like the mayor in Torrington, or older, like other mayors and first selectmen around the state, to work for the CEO who is responsible to the shareholders. I have heeded this advice in the past, and it has helped me and my family to this day. I now pass it on to you and your family for use when voting on the 5 questions, number 3 through 7, on the state ballot pertaining to the Town of Winchester Charter on November 4th, 2008. Pass this advice on to others. Majority of the selectmen, 5 of 7, and a majority of the Charter Revision Commission, 4 of 5, representing the 2 major parties and 1 unaffiliated member, myself, have chosen to propose a badly needed change from the this form of government, town manager form of government, to the mayoral form of government. You have wisely voted for the majority selectmen at the last election after showing displeasure with previous leadership's conduct and accomplishments over the years. You have made the correct decision, in my opinion. The winners are now following through on their commitments to the letter where practical, despite taking plenty of undeserved heat from the small minority of the electors who lost the election, and even some who won the last election. It would be wise to back the winning businessmen now, when your help is needed, and you can again participate by secret ballot, as was intended for good reason by our forefathers that you see in the picture on the screen. If you don't help them, and they lose the majority in the next year's election, we will remain in the same uncomfortable rut. The town manager will probably be tossed for responsibly carrying out his duties during this term, and the crippling bond issue will again pop up in very difficult economic times. And the major developments and additional revenue will be de-emphasized, and off we go again. Vote on November 4th and encourage family members to do the same. You will be doing your best to help when help is needed most. If you choose to vote no in the mayoral form, we will have to work extra hard to re-elect these businessmen, if they choose to run again, and perhaps more businessmen of like mind to join them, to continue the job that they have successfully started. It all takes time, you know. It can't be done in 2 years, and we can't keep pulling the plant up at the roots all the time to see if it is growing. Let's do the right thing now. Now is the time, and never put off until tomorrow what you can achieve today. Some people say we're not ready for the mayoral form. I do not agree with that. I think we are overdue. We do need the mayoral form. I voted for it when I was on the Charter Revision Commission, and I will vote for it again on November 4th. Now I will go to frequently asked questions. You'll be able to see those on the board. And I'll try to tell you, these are the kind of questions I've been asked. Will we retain the town meetings and referendums? Yes, with the mayoral form, with some limitations, if a budget is not approved by August 1st, for example, we will maintain the town meetings and the town referendums. There is one question about this, which you get to vote for separately, and I hope to get to that later in the program. These are all questions that are asked of me. So when it says do you, that means Brian, do you? Do you favor the mayoral form or the selectman town manager form of government for the town of Winchester? After study, much study over the last year and a half, and a life worth of as a businessman, CEO, COO, and all kinds of things. Also as a consultant and a article writer and a course giver, I continue to favor the mayoral form for the following reasons. One person is chosen by the electorate, and that one person will have to answer to the electorate. Somewhere here I didn't get the electorate in there, but that's all right. The mayor is not managed and micromanaged by a committee. Again, he reports directly to the electorate. Number 3, the mayor is in charge of running the corporation and answering to the electors every 2 years for performance. The mayor has the authority to direct and discipline and order when necessary. Number 4, the elected mayor provides the unity of direction and line of authority needed to be successful. This line of authority is what stops and helps stop the micromanagement. Of course, there is a section in the charter that says people should not micromanage and should let the fellow get on. And in these programs I've been showing you with people from Torrington talking about the mayoral form, they don't like, just as we don't like, micromanagement. Okay, I think I now found the one that was out of place, so I'll put it back in there. I always seem to make one out of place for some reason, but here is the rest of this mayoral, this first one. One person is chosen by the electors, about 6,894 as of yesterday, and it changes every day close to the national election now, to provide the authority to implement campaign promises and policies set by the Board of Selectmen. Don't forget the selectmen in the new mayoral approach, if chosen, will be the policy makers. They will not be in the Board of Finance, and they will not be running the town day-to-day on a day-to-day basis as the town manager does now. Provide unity of direction and other functions necessary to run the town efficiently. So I've made up that one and had that out of place. Number 5, the mayor minimizes multiple party micromanagement. The goals of the town must be paramount. If you've watched the 2 previous shows, both the Democratic and the Republican councilmen from Torrington said this is a must. We must not have micromanagement, and they avoid it at all costs. The mayoral form also seems to provide more stability, as mayor terms have tended to last 5 years or so on the average in this area, which in turn, and even in this town, when we had the mayoral form that averaged 5 years per mayor, except for the one who died after about a year in office. But when you put him into the average, it comes out to 5. So years or so on average in this area, which in turn fosters a stability of tenure of personnel. Because if you keep the same mayor for 5 years, you're most likely going to build rapport with all the personnel and build better teamwork and create esprit de corps and have a better management team. Number 7, the mayoral form provides for division of work, specialization. That means the Board of Finance can specialize in the financial issues. The selectmen can specialize in policy, and the mayor can specialize in being the CEO and running the town on a day-to-day, week-to-week, and year-to-year business, and be held accountable at the next election for his results. Of course, he must have a platform when he runs for election. You can't run on a wishy-washy platform if in the mayoral form. You have to say what you're going to try to achieve, and then you better achieve it, or you won't be back in again. The mayoral form provides for division of work, specialization, the selectmen policy, the management, the administration, that's the mayor himself, and the finance board. Usually people, these are all elected, by the way, in our proposed form. And they're usually people with that kind of experience. You want policy people as selectmen, you want finance people on the finance board, and you want somebody who can manage in the manager's job. By the way, I want to point out here that many of the greatest corporations in America over my lifetime have been run by 30-year-olds and people under, especially in the computer industry, and still to this day, to a certain extent, that happens with a lot of our companies in America. So youth is not a hindrance here. Youth can often be a benefit. So because somebody's young and doesn't have too much experience, doesn't mean they won't be an excellent mayor in the town. What is the advantage of a smaller elected Board of Selectmen? The elected selectmen can be chosen for their legislative ability only, and they do not have to worry about managing a town manager and being responsible for the duties of the Finance Board. What are the advantages of a separate Board of Finance? The separate elected Board of Finance can have longer and overlapping staggered terms, that they're longer terms than the mayor and the selectmen, and they can be chosen for their financial expertise only, and do not have to be concerned with policy or the day-to-day running of the business. And I want to point out to you that each of these branches is a check and balance on the other two, so that helps us a lot. And now, does the mayoral form provide more checks and balances? In my opinion, yes. It's more checks and balances in that system than we have in ours now. We have the electorate, which is the main check and balance, because they can choose the selectmen, they can choose the finance board, and they can choose the mayor. The mayor, the selectmen, and the Board of Finance. These are checks and balances. And within the whole charter, there are more checks and balances, which we don't have time to go into tonight. Is the mayoral form more expensive to operate in this town? That's a question I get a lot. This mayoral form is going to be very expensive to operate. Well, the mayoral form is not going to be more expensive to operate, and may be a little less expensive for the following reasons. Number one, the mayor's salary, the minimum is set in the charter, is $65,000 a year, and the selectmen can approve a little more than that if they want to, as long as they do it 9 months in the advance of an election. That could be, and usually is, mayors are usually less than town managers. Not always true, of course. Next, there may be less referendums, because we're going to try with this charter, if the questions are passed, we're going to try to limit the referendums to 3 at most. And that may or may not pass on November 4th, but if it does, that'll be a benefit. The next is the selectmen and Board of Finance will not be remunerated. And this should be a D here. No search, settlement pay, etc., for coming and going of the town managers. So we won't have to pay for settlement fees if a town manager leaves, 3 months' pay or anything like that, or a year's pay in the case of the education superintendent at one time. And we won't have to pay for a search to go find another one. These come with the votes. How many votes are necessary for each question, the 5 questions, number 3 through 5 on a state ballot, to pass? The majority of 15% of the total number of those eligible to vote is needed. So I did a little calculation here so you can see. We have today, it'll change by election day, it'll probably go up by election day, we have 6,894 registered voters. We need 15% of those to vote for or against these questions. And then they have to vote against each question. And I'm going to go over that in a minute here. So we need about 1,034. By election day, it'll be more than that. So let's say we need about 1,100 to vote for each question. And then there'll be some yeses and nos. The one who have the most votes will win. So if it's more votes for no, then it'll fail. If there's more votes for yes for that question, it'll pass. In my view, the most important question is question number 1. Now, if we don't get 15% for any question, it automatically fails. You need 15% or say 1,100 a year if you round it up for the next week or so, to get it. Now, that's very important, because if none of the questions gets any votes, then none of them can pass. Now I'm going to show you the ballot. I'm not going to belabor this ballot. This is a state ballot. It's a sample ballot. Only electors of the town of Winchester can vote on this whole ballot. And this square here is everybody running for president, vice president, senate, representative, whatever. They're all in here. And these across the top are what we call questions on the ballot. Question 1 is a question: shall there be a constitutional convention to amend or revise the Constitution of the state? That's a state question. If you vote yes on that, that means whether you want to revise the state constitution. If you vote no, it means you don't. If you don't vote at all, it doesn't count either way. The second one is, shall the Constitution of the state be amended to permit any person who will have attained the age of 18 years on or before the day of a regular election to vote in the primary for such regular election? And then you can either vote yes or no on that. Again, these are state level, okay? Now, so you have these questions. Here I blocked out that so we won't be confused by all these other votes. These are the questions. The first two are for state issues, the Constitution and other state change. And then those that are down the right-hand side, starting at the top corner, those are the ones for the town of Winchester. And I will go through each of these, so I won't read them here, but there's a yes and a no, and then question number 1, and then there's question number 2. Well, it's actually question number 3 is our question number 1. Question number 3 on the state ballot is our first Winsted, town of Winchester question. Number 4 is the second one. Number 5 is the third one. Number 6 is the fourth one. Number 7 is the fifth one. So I will now read to you and show you here the questions 3 through 5 on the state ballot for the town of Winchester on November 4th, 2008. I put the yes and the no on here just so you can see that for each question, the yes and no is on top of the question, not on the bottom of the question. So you look at it, and they'll be boxed in on the ballot, so you won't be able to make a mistake. So you'll either vote yes or no. Shall the charter, town of Winchester charter, be amended to eliminate the position of town manager to be replaced by a mayor, board of finance, and a 5-member board of selectmen? You will vote yes or no on that. To me, that's the most important vote you can make in the town of Winchester. 5 questions. Either you want a town manager, a board of finance, and a board of selectmen, or you don't. I'll be voting yes on that question. Now, our second question for the town of Winchester that's on the state ballot is question number 4. Again, yes or no. So shall section 1108C of the charter, town of Winchester charter, be amended to require the annual budget increase of 3% above the preceding year if a budget is not adopted at referendum by August 1st. Now, the way the charter reads for town meetings and referendums, you can probably get in 3 town meetings and referendums by August 1st if the charter is followed. So that's why I say 3 referendums. But if they can squeeze in a 4th referendum, do it a little quicker, that's okay. August 1st is the critical date on that. So again, you vote yes or no if in agreement with that. That's an attempt by the Charter Revision Commission and the Selectmen to try to speed up this process of the annual budget and a help to manage the town in a more efficient manner. And also save some money too, I think. Number 5, which is the third town of Winchester question, shall the charter be amended to include a new section, 313, which allows the Board of Selectmen to investigate any officer or agency of the town of Winchester, including the power to call witnesses and issue subpoenas, and to include a new section, 319, which details the appointment and removal of town board members. This is a very important one. You either vote yes or no on that, depending upon what your personal preference is. And it's an attempt to make the form of government stronger and be able to move faster and quicker and more efficiently to get the job done than perhaps we have been able to do in the past. Number 6, which is the fourth question, a town of Winchester question. You will vote yes or no on this. Shall Section 1708 of the Charter be amended to include property owners from the definition of to include property owners, exclude property. I'm sorry, that's wrong. It should say exclude. Let me just check the ballot, make sure I got the right thing there. Exclude is the word we're looking for. Property owners from the definition of elector. Now, I'll explain what I think that means. I'm pretty sure I'm right. Check with the town hall if any question. That means that anybody who owns property and lives in this area, they will be able to vote, and they'll be called an elector. And what they're trying to do here is go more towards the state definition of elector. This is kind of a confusing question, but to go towards the state definition of elector, and that is one vote per person. So that's what they're trying to do there, and that's mainly in when we have questions to do with money and taxes and other, ordinances and things like that. They want to try to keep it within the town of Winchester electors. So that's what that's all about. And you can, well, again, try to understand what it means, talk to the town hall and or any of the selectmen, and try to get a clear understanding of that. The seventh, which is the fifth town of Winchester question, but the seventh one on the mayoral ballot, on the ballot for the state, on the national ballot, is, shall the charter be amended to adopt all of the recommendations of the Charter Revision Commission as filed in the town clerk's office, except those provisions covered in question 1 through 4 above. So what they've done here is they've put this as a separate question, because in the charter there are a lot of things that are outdated by time since the last updated the charter. Some things that the lawyer wanted changed, some wording that the lawyer, town attorney wanted changed so it would comply with state definitions and state wording. There were some that needed to be changed because we wanted to put in she's and he's instead of he's all the time. There were some that were changed because we wanted the finance department of the town to have easier accessibility to the Board of Education, to be able to help them and try in a way someday perhaps to work together closer to reduce redundancy and to better understand each other's finances, maybe even in the end merge computers, maybe even in the end have other overlaps with the town to try to save the town money. But basically it's the kind of thing we need to have better understanding than we perhaps have today between the Board of Education and the mayor in the new form of government, or the town manager and the selectmen if this passes and nothing else does. And then there are things like issues of the amount of money you can go out for bonding with. There's the amount of money that you can, I'm not sure it's bonding actually, there's the amount of money you can go out to purchase with, and without going out for bid. They raised that limit a little bit. There's other limits that they've raised to try to cut out some of the red tape in the organization. And there's other wording that has been changed to emphasize different things and all. That's all in the charter. And I don't think just by reading this question you'll be able to really understand that. I think you have to read the charter. You have to understand what's in there. Or you'll have to take the word of your leaders. Now, with that, I've kind of got through here these charter things. I think I'll go once more through the format of it and let you see that again, because we're through that now. Just have to go back a few pages here and put this up for you again. This is the overall ballot. And this is all the voting for president and senators, representatives, Uncle Tom Cobley and all in here. These are the questions from the state doing with their constitution, state's constitution. You should understand those before you vote on those. And then these are the 5 questions for the town of Winchester. Question 3, yes or no. Question 4, yes or no. Question 5, yes or no. Question 6, yes or no. Question 7, yes or no. And you will check one of those boxes if you vote. If you want to, you can skip a box too. You can vote yes for all of them. You can vote no for all of them. You can mix them all up. You can vote yes here, no, no, yes, whatever you want, all the way down. Same in all these other cases here. Now, when you get to the people running for office, there is no yes and no. You just check the box of the person that you want with a special pencil, and you hand that in. So that's that. And then I just, for sample reasons to show you tonight, I've cut out all of that, the questions from the state and the elector, people running for office. And I put in just the questions on the right-hand side. So if there's anything you want to remember, the town of Winchester are all the questions along the right-hand margin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's what you'll vote on if you do go and vote, and I encourage you all to go and vote. And remember, one of the reasons why we tried to have charter changes voted on at national elections, because that's when the most voters turn out. More voters turn out at the national election because they're interested in all the things in the national ballot than turn out at any other election that we have. So there could be an exception once in a while for some real odd topic, but now Torrington is also having a few questions on their ballot on November 4th. Shall we increase the mayor's term and the city clerk's term to 4 years instead of 2? So they're asking that question of all their voters, and they're hoping one way or another to get an answer on that. So that's kind of where we stand on that. Now, I do want to point out that this is not unusual for people to put these charter things on national ballots. This is more common than not. So it's a little more work for you. There's a little more study to do. I think you should do the best you can to understand it, but I do want to make a plea here before the end of the program to say that you should back these selectmen. You elected the selectmen. You weren't happy with the process in the past. We know we have a problem in the town that we need more revenue. These selectmen have run on a platform that says revenue is number 1 on their list. They've been taking actions accordingly, and not popular actions. A lot of sand has been thrown in their face by a minority of people. But they're moving right down with the hard decisions, and they're getting on with it. So if you have to take the advice of the winners. Don't take the advice of people who lost the election, unless you really firmly believe in their approach and that they are right. If so, then of course you vote your own conscience. But I would say that you've got some good people here. You've got a good town manager. You've got good selectmen. And even if the same 7 selectmen, even though sometimes we tend to run on 5 pistons instead of 7, even if we re-elect the same selectmen next time, with a town manager should the mayoral form not pass, we'll be better off, because we got to have consistency here. So vote for the mayoral if you can, and if not, then we got to concentrate for the next year on getting these people back into office, and maybe even strengthen them a bit with a few more businessmen, so that we can get this town rolling. And you're going to hear at the end of the program, in a few more minutes or seconds even, roll, town of Winsted, roll. Good luck on Saturday at the budget referendum. Next week I'll have a special guest. Will be Mayor Ryan Bingham of the city of Torrington, second-term mayor, mid-20s, very successful, on his way to a brilliant future, and he'll be here and will take most of the hours. I won't have much to say next week except to introduce the mayor and ask him a lot of questions. Please join. Tell other people that he's going to be on. There'll be some signs up around town to remind everybody. And then that's the best I can do to help you on this November 4th election. I'm always happy to answer questions in the street if anybody asks me any during the week. But good luck, do your best, and enjoy the next song.
Roll, town of Winsted, roll. Will you vote on the 5 questions? Oh my dears, will you vote on the 5 questions? Town of Winsted.
Yes, we'll vote on the 5 questions. They're important to perfection.
Roll, town of Winsted, roll. The town will buy us a foldy, roldy, tildy, toldy, seek a double and use a cozy roll to find us. Roll, town of Winsted, roll. Will you study question 1? Oh my dears, will you study question 1? Town of Winsted.
Yes, we'll study question 1, 'cause we are under the gun.
Roll, town of Winsted, roll. The town will buy us a foldy, roldy, tildy, toldy, seek a double and use a cozy roll to find us. Roll, town of Winsted, roll. Will you study question 2? Oh my dears, will you study question 2? Town of Winsted.
Yes, we'll study question 2, 'cause it's important to us too.
Roll, town of Winsted, roll. The town will buy us a foldy, roldy, tildy, toldy, seek a double and use a cozy roll to find us. Roll, town of Winsted, roll. Will you study question 3? Oh my dears, will you study question 3? Town of Winsted.
Yes, we'll study question 3, 'cause it might be meant to be.
Roll, town of Winsted, roll. The town will buy us a foldy, roldy, tildy, toldy, seek a double and use a cozy roll to find us. Roll, town of Winsted, roll. Will you study question 4? Oh my dears, will you study question 4? Town of Winsted.
Yes, we'll study question 4, 'cause it may add something more.
Roll, town of Winsted, roll. The town will buy us a foldy, roldy, tildy, toldy, seek a double and use a cozy roll to find us. Roll, town of Winsted, roll. Will you study question 5? Oh my dears, will you study question 5? Town of Winsted.
Yes, we'll study question 5, 'cause it may add something wise.
Roll, town of Winsted, roll. The town will buy us a foldy, roldy, tildy, toldy, seek a double and use a cozy roll to find us. Roll, town of Winsted, roll. decision. Oh my dears, will you make a decision? Town of Winsted.
Yes, we'll make a decision, 'cause we have so much vision.
Roll, town of Winsted, roll. The town will buy us a foldy, roldy, tildy, toldy, seek a double and use a cozy roll to find us. Roll, town of Winsted, roll. And you'll vote November 4. Oh my dears, and you'll vote November 4. Town of Winsted.
Yes, we'll vote November 4, 'cause it will help the town to score.
Roll, town of Winsted, roll. 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 Roll, town of Winsted, roll.